vaccine.
Are you ready, Devin?
Should we go? No, it's not time yet.
Yeah, it is.
What's my computer's?
My phone-
Computer's
My
a
phone says
minute.
it is, but
All right, whenever you tell us. All right, we're live. I call the meeting to order. Pledge of allegiance led by Greg Lewis.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Greg. Welcome. At this time, we'll take any public comment on agenda items. I don't think, does not look like we have any. So we'll move on to revisions of the agenda. Becky?
I have a revision. I need to add a budget committee issue that we need to look at resolving today. So I'll make a motion to add that to our agenda.
Good discussion.
So we'll have to do it to the discussion and to the action item, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. It's been moved to add the budget committee issue to the both discussion and actions.
Support.
It's been supported, seconded. The roll call. Becky,
Aye.
Suzanne,
Aye.
Greg. Aye. Tim.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Any other revisions? I'll take a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call. Tim,
Aye.
Greg. Aye. Suzanne,
Aye.
Becky,
Aye.
John. We're voting on the agenda. Chair votes aye. Motion carries. All right. So we'll add the budget committee both to discussion items and to the action items. At this time, we'll move to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, sir. Got a prepared statement for the board and the community. It's rather long, so bear with me. But in the interest of transparency, I wanted it to be complete. On Monday, March 22nd, I was contacted by a TPS board member and told that they had recently become aware of an allegation that former board member Milton Abbott initially emailed a resignation from the board on October 13th, in addition to his resignation letter on November 18th, 2020. A search of the TPS email system for that date found that Mr. Abbott had indeed sent an email to President Kevin Johnson with an attachment announcing his resignation from the board effective immediately. I quickly made our district lawyers aware of the situation, and I was advised to pursue an independent investigation into the facts surrounding the email. Specifically, we needed to verify the facts about whether the email was authentic. In Michigan law, a board member resignation is effective when a correspondence is sent, not when it is accepted. The November 18th, not the October 13th communication was the email eventually forwarded to the full board and recognized at the November 23rd Board of Education meeting. Board members were made aware of this new allegation by email on Monday and were later provided with a memo asking that they limit conversations on the subject until the investigation was complete. The implications of the existence of a resignation dated October 13th would mean that by waiting until December to fill the board seat vacated by Mr. Abbott, the board had missed a 30-day window to fill the seat and that the appointment of President Johnson would have been null and void. My first attempt in initiating objective investigation was to speak to Lenawee ISD legal and HR departments. They were recommended by our lawyers because they have completed investigations in our county in the past. Following a conversation with officials from the LISD, it was decided that because the ISD could potentially be called on to fill the vacancy created by the Abbott resignation, they could not be involved in the investigation. Before I was able to speak to another investigator about the allegations, I was contacted by Mr. Abbott, who said that he felt that he could clear things up. On Thursday, March 25th, Mr. Abbott came to my office with a letter explaining the October 13th email to Mr. Johnson. His letter states, in part, after being involved in the summer of 2020 with board meetings, I became disgusted with was getting very upset with the actions of some board members not knowing exactly what their positions entailed, and decided to resign my trustee position from the board. I wrote a letter to President Kevin Johnson, scanned it to my office copier, and forwarded the letter to his email. After not hearing back from President Johnson, I called and asked if he had received the letter. Kevin told me that he did not receive the letter. I recently heard an investigation has taken place and that a school employee found the October 2020 email. During this particular October 2020 phone conversation, Kevin asked if I would reconsider my resignation and allow myself more time to decide. I agreed and changed my mind with the October 2020 resignation. My wife and I went on a vacation for a few weeks, and when we returned home, I had no doubt that I wanted to resign and do more traveling and spend more time with my family. I sent a letter to President Johnson on November 18th, 2020, resigning from the Tecumseh School Board. Again, after a few days of not hearing from President Johnson, I called him and asked if he received this resignation. He said no and checked his spam file. The letter was found, and he told me he would present it to the board at the next meeting. Again, it should be noted that in Michigan law, these facts are clear. In Michigan, a school board member's resignation is official the moment it is given, verbal or written, to an officer of the board. A school board member's resignation, once given, is not rescindable. And finally, a school board in Michigan has 30 days to appoint a new member to a vacancy. If it fails to do so, the local ISD has the legal responsibility to do so. It is not clear that the board was aware of these legal standards last October, but intent is irrelevant. As a follow-up to our conversation, I called Mr. Abbott to see if he had talked with any other board members about the October 13th email and resignation, or the conversation that took place with Mr. Johnson. He stated he had not. A copy of the explanation letter was sent to all board members later in the day on Thursday by a board member who stated that Mr. Abbott wanted it shared. Shortly after that email, I contacted President Johnson and asked if he had seen the email. He said yes, and when I asked if he felt it was necessary to follow through with the investigation, he asked if we could instead get a final opinion from our attorneys about whether his appointment to the Abbott board seat was valid. He said that if their determination is that the appointment was invalid, the board would need to contact the LISD to appoint a new member. He also stated that if his appointment was invalid, we would need to make sure that all action taken from the board from January through March was supported by a majority minus his vote. Finally, I suggested that a special board meeting should be held before spring break to address the situation, and he agreed. Today, these items have been verified and advice has been given on how to legally proceed. The October 13th, 2020 resignation of Milton Abbott was a valid resignation as of that date. A school board member may not rescind a resignation by law in the state of Michigan. The Tecumseh Board of Education missed the 30-day window for appointing a new member to complete the term of Mr. Abbott, and that task now falls to the Lenawee ISD. And finally, Mr. Kevin Johnson is no longer a member of the Tecumseh Board of Education because his appointment was found invalid. As a result of this information, I have informed Kevin Johnson that his appointment to the board has been found invalid and thanked him for his service to the district. I've also alerted LISD Superintendent Mark Haig to the situation and have asked for them to have an appointment of a new member for the April 12th or April 26th meeting. Pursuant to Board Policy 0171.2, the Vice President shall assume the office of President for the remainder of the term. In this case, that would be the end of this calendar year. It is my recommendation that the office of Vice President be filled once a new member has been appointed and all seats are filled. The succession plan and policy declares the treasurer, followed by the secretary, shall preside over meetings in the absence of the president or the vice president. At this time, no board action on this matter is required or recommended. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. Do you have anything else?
Not at this time, perhaps in discussion.
Okay. I guess with that, we'll move on to discussion. First item on the discussion list is the school board member position opening we have. Rick, do you have an update on the in conversations with LISD?
Conversation with the superintendent from the ISD is that their process is the same in their policy as it is in ours. They will open for a period of time applications for the position. People will have to communicate directly to the superintendent of the ISD, Mark Haig. Those will be forwarded to their 5-member board, and they will have a process established for interviewing those candidates, and they will select from that field. I believe that their target is to have a meeting on the 22nd of April and have someone appointed for our second meeting in April, which would be the 26th. He doesn't believe that there's enough time between now and the 16th of April to address the issue.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion on this topic?
Will they take any recommendations from us, or can we recommend, or?
We did not discuss recommendations. I know that in our own policy, there's nothing that mentions resignations or recommendations, I'm sorry. So it wouldn't be excluded. Any member of the community or part of our board could make a written recommendation. I would think that would come after the application process. So my advice is that it's possible to do.
Then we have to have another organizational meeting, right?
We will not have to have another organizational meeting because the policy states that in the absence of the president, the vice president assumes the role for the remainder of that term. And Kevin's term of president was the 2021 calendar year.
Okay.
So the vice president would hold that position. The vice president position would be open. We will have to eventually get to the point where we appoint a vice president. My recommendation is to wait until there's a seventh
Right,
member.
right.
Um, if someone who holds another office is uh, placed in the vice presidency, then that position would become open,
Okay,
and the process would start again so that we fill all the positions. But originally, the only position that would be up would be the vice president position. Very, very unique situation. Um, in the, I think, probably history of our law firm. So, not a lot of precedence for how it goes. But
Right.
we do have policies in place that fit, the openings and the things that have to get done now.
Obviously, if we'd have known about October 13th, things would have been handled differently.
Sure.
is
Well,
that,
I wasn't
is that the
here.
case in other states as well? Or is
This
that
is in
unusual?
Michigan state election law.
Is it,
So I don't
how
know.
many states have it? Half the states?
I don't know.
Is it common, uncommon? It just seems
Yeah,
odd.
I would only be guessing if I gave you
Right.
an answer. What I'm familiar with now, way more than I was previously, is
Right, me too.
Michigan election
I
law.
would have never, ever
And
dreamt.
it's, I will say this in conversation with our attorney, it is unique to school boards. This sort of process is not the same for municipalities
No,
or
I've
state
heard that
government.
too. Why?
I don't know. I don't know. It could be that in some municipalities, positions are appointed and not elected. But again, that's just
Right.
guess.
Any other discussion? All right, then we'll move on to the district mode of learning after spring break. Busy man today, Rick.
Yeah. One of the things that I took advantage of because of the special meeting was to just have a conversation um, about how the board feels we should be planning coming out of spring vacation. There's many opinions about whether or not we should come straight back because of the amount of travel and unrestricted sort of behaviors, even for people who stay home. What I can tell you about modes of learning in Lenawee County is that Addison has currently stated that they will be out until the 23rd, and they will return on the 26th of April. Every other school district plans to return to school at the end of spring break on the 12th.
Except for Addison.
Yeah, that's what you just
Yeah,
said.
aside from Addison, everybody is planning to come back to their
I think
face-to-face.
we need to be back. So
I agree.
there's testing being offered. Hopefully people will take advantage of that,
Mhm.
but I think we need to be back. We're running out of time.
Speaking of testing, and you're referring to the voluntary COVID testing
Correct.
that we sent out to families 2 weeks ago on the Sunday phone call. But when we return from break that first week, guys, we have testing right away, yes? State testing? Okay.
What does that entail?
So, this is sophomores and juniors,
Oh, me.
days, juniors.
Academic
Okay.
testing.
You mean academic testing,
Yeah,
not COVID testing?
right.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, different testing. When you got to study for COVID testing, you don't have to study.
And hopefully you don't pass.
And hopefully, yeah, it's an exam you hope to fail,
It is.
exactly. So there are legitimate reasons for many of our kids to be back face-to-face because of that testing. So any other comments or viewpoints on the return from spring break?
I mean, unless we have information and we have a lot of students, I mean, given they probably won't be together, I feel we should return. We need to
Yeah,
go.
I do too.
Okay. It is listed as an action item, and if the board would like, the board is welcome to take action to direct that, but it isn't necessary or required
We haven't so
that you
far, really.
act on it.
You've done it.
Right.
I don't think we've ever voted
Yeah.
before on it, have we?
It's on there, so.
It's on there, so you're welcome to do that and pass it as a resolution so
Okay.
that it is clear,
Right.
and that's perfectly fine, but I just want to advise the board, it isn't necessary for you to make that proclamation.
Is that something
I-
we want to do?
I'd rather we didn't make the proclamation, only because Rick's gonna be monitoring that with Denise, and whatever rolls down from the state, it might be a October or April 11th decision, so that's probably why they leave it fluid, like, I don't know, but we can make a statement and proclaim we should do that, but the situation can change in a hurry. It just gives him the flexibility.
I don't think that would take away his flexibility.
Yeah, I don't care, we can.
Just so
Would
the
it?
public is aware that the intent, that's what I'm
But
thinking.
if we've never voted on it before, I'm kind of with Greg that I don't know why we vote on it now, but
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement that
yeah.
like,
we
I
wanna
don't think
come
there's
back.
anyone that's saying we don't want him to come back, so
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think there's any point in voting on it.
Our hope is that we'll be back. There's aside from the high school testing, there's state testing for grades 3 through 8. So there are good reasons for us to be back face to face. Like I said, I wanted the board to have the opportunity to weigh in on their thoughts, and I will take those thoughts under advisement. And I think, as Greg says, monitor the situation over break and see what happens. But I would like to communicate to families that it's our intention to return face to face. So I will do that in an all district call.
Okay.
So the next item is
I
the,
have another
oh,
question.
yep.
Do we need to revise the agenda now?
Nope.
No? Okay, all right,
So-
thanks, Becky.
So we added a budget committee bit. And what that is Devin, our well-connected IT guy, got a call about some Chromebooks that a school district had ordered and did not end up completing their order. There were about 3,000 available, and that number is down by half already today. Devin got a quote for us for 500 to fulfill what we had already talked about doing, and this would be COVID funds, is my understanding. For the 500 Chromebooks, the cases, and the licenses, we'd be looking at 136,000, and those would be available right away.
We had planned to get those anyway.
We had that was something we had already.
Right, and I'll explain a little bit. We've been historically in the last 10 years 1-to-1 with Chromebooks, grade 7 through 12, as you know. We're now 1-to-1 with Chromebooks 3 through 12 on a daily basis. We have tablets available to the ELCs on a daily basis, although they're not used daily. In a situation like this, when we send everybody home, it's a requirement that you have your Chromebook. As a result, we're going through Chromebooks because in the past, if a student in grade 7 through 12 damaged a Chromebook, they typically had to wait until their Chromebook was repaired. And then when they were at school, they used a loaner. Because we're in the situation that we're in, the Chromebooks go home just in case they have to have them. And then we're required to provide them. So now if a student damages through no fault of their own or because of their own fault, they hand us a broken Chromebook and we hand them a new one. And they're invoiced for the repairs, and that takes time. But in order for the kids to continue learning, they've got to have a Chromebook like they would a textbook. And as a result, the inventory has steadily shrunk. Devin has statistics. How many a week?
It averages about 2 devices a day. Peak damage on some sites.
And then you repair them and give them back to the student?
We recirculate them when we get parts, which there is a shortage right now.
Right.
So these 500 would add a buffer for that delay and also replace obsolete units.
Right.
We've had to create
But like a student doesn't get a brand new one and then they keep that one the whole time, or is that normally how it is?
we are exchanging the devices as soon as they come in. So they get a new one or a refurbished one ready to go.
Okay.
And then they can leave it back.
And then the information that came to us today is time critical. And,
Right.
you know, we
Because they'll be gone if
wanted,
you don't buy
I
them.
wanted the board to know about it and see if it's something that we can jump on. We're hoping that they'll still be available tomorrow, the number that we want to purchase.
Right.
We have plans to organize with the ESSER 3 money, some longevity with our technology devices. So we may ask the board for another batch. It's just that when you order under the normal circumstances, it's 3 to 4 months. And these are some things that we can get rather quickly.
Yeah.
So wanted to try to take advantage of it, recommend the purchase, and leave it to you as an action item if you prefer.
I'm trying to remember the exact number. We had a line item in the budget for a yearly amount of Chromebooks we were going to buy anyway to replace. Do you remember what that
Right,
number
what's
was?
the-
I feel like it was 300. but
Annually,
I'm
the
not
number
sure.
is 400 that we would
Was it
purchase.
400?
It's going to be a little bit higher since we're one-to-one, especially with the DLCs, but it averages 400.
Okay. So this was kind of something we already had in
We would,
process.
just some special circumstances creeped up so that we could get some now. And
And extra funding stuff.
And it would be some of the ESSER funding that isn't general fund.
Right, okay. And so this is for the next round of the funding, second round. Do we already have that money? No, or when do we expect to get it?
We have some ESSER money available to us. The ESSER 3 money has not been authorized by the state yet for the LEAs. It's still in the legislative process. But the state does have the ESSER 3 money.
They have it.
So it's coming. The check's in the mail, Tom.
And how does this price compare to what we bought before?
It's comparable to the purchase that we made last summer, correct?
Yes, it's very similar to other vendors out there. If we wait, the minimum lead time is 3 to 4 months. Right now, there is a global chip shortage. If we wait till the beginning of summer or near the next school year, that will increase. It's a good opportunity to buy them right in the market.
The price has increased for the licensing, and that's just Google cashing in.
Right. Yes.
I know all about that.
Devin, you know what brand these are?
These are the Lenovo 100E Generation 2.
All right, thanks.
It is a good device. One of the least repaired devices.
That's what you need right there.
Right. Durable. Yes.
Something hardy.
Just as kind of a point of information, how are you doing on repairs? Are we getting 25% repaired? I know it's parts and time, but just kind of
We are extremely behind. We have a room upstairs full of Chromebooks. If you guys would like to see the current status, I can invite you to, after the meeting, take a look at the visualize the current state. I'm hiring another position to help us work on those. We have one gentleman that is great work for 3 weeks, plus for a different opportunity.
so we have an open rec for that.
We will be posting that job soon.
Rick, just so we're all clear, with these funds, you don't necessarily have to have board approval. You're just doing us the courtesy of bringing it to us, correct?
Correct.
And I just want to make sure that going for, like, you know, there's a global shortage on a lot of things right now. And we need to make sure we're getting things when we can. So I appreciate you bringing it to the board, but if we ever get into one of those situations where it's either we get them or we don't, and it's time sensitive and, you know, you have to make a decision, I would hope that you would make that without having board approval if you don't need it.
Right. And that situation has and probably will again arise. This just happened to turn up on a special board meeting night, so it
I
was a
think
slam dunk.
we addressed that in the budget committee, didn't we?
Well, there were some issues with the last time that we dealt with
Right,
this, so
but
I
I
just
think
want to make sure that the entire board knows that.
And I agree. We did address that in the budget committee, and we did make the board aware of that, and with the understanding that he would execute and let us know as soon as possible.
Right.
Right.
Or
So
if possible,
but that's a
ahead of
great-
time.
if
Right.
possible ahead of
Yeah.
time, but in this case,
If not,
had we
right.
not been here tonight,
Right.
I mean,
Right,
he
they
should
would have had to
have.
pull the trigger.
Right.
You'd have sent us an email.
Since these are COVID relief funds, are there other things that we have a need for that we're going to be spending money on? I mean, have we gone through areas that we can spend this money and determine where we want to spend it?
Not completely.
Okay, so
but
we
my-
have funds
my-
out
We
there
started
that-
addressing it in the budget committee, and
Right.
Right,
I think you weren't there that day, maybe.
I wasn't there for that one.
Yeah,
but-
there was a
Yeah,
a
we've got a-
We have
preliminary
a,
list.
we have a wish list.
We've got a wish list in the budget committee that they're aware of. My directors certainly know that if we're short on something that we need right now, they get us the information. At this time, we're not in that spot. But things like this come up, and it's good to know that the board understands that we may be making decisions that require speed.
Yeah, I mean, we can't, with the global shortages that we have on so many items, we can't afford to lose opportunities like this. The other, well, no, I guess that's it.
They might have been stuck in the Suez Canal. or
That's
something,
right. They're behind
It
it.
could be.
Not anymore. That's right.
Tony?
Oh, I know what, sorry, Greg.
Go ahead.
So because we've been able to buy so many Chromebooks this year with COVID funds, that line item that we have in the budget for the 400 Chromebooks that we would purchase out of the general fund, we're going to have a surplus there this year, correct?
Yeah, if we decide to reallocate that to something else, we could. If we just decided that we didn't need that in the general fund budget, then we could address other things.
So this is a win-win.
I think
Yeah,
so.
hopefully.
Since we've increased the one-to-one Chromebooks by over 50%, have we increased the manpower at all to try and repair them? Because that's another way. Can you
Yeah,
get
we've
parts?
added-
So I guess that's $1 million question.
We've added 2 tech positions to his department. We had a person that lasted 3 weeks and changed jobs. So they're as hard to come by as Chromebooks.
But are the parts available even if you had someone to help fix them?
We're still searching for parts.
Okay.
That's when she's getting parts for specific models. We need to work on almost everything. We need to react quickly when we can find them out, so that's also very important.
Thanks for keeping your ear out there and finding that.
All right.
Any other discussion? All right, well, I guess we'll move on to action items. It's been decided we're not going to act on the district motor learning, so I'll accept a motion from the Chromebooks.
First, you'll want to suspend the rules to act on a discussion item the same night, just so that we're on record for that.
So I'll make a motion that we suspend the
Like,
Policy.
Do we need to, I mean, going back to what we talked about before, where we don't need to approve this, do we need to make a motion and approve this?
Because the rules of the purchase don't require it, it doesn't have to be done that way. I would be more comfortable with having it on record because as you mentioned, we had a snafu last year.
Right.
So I think if we have the opportunity that we should do it.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion that we suspend the rules and that we go ahead and vote on a discussion item this evening.
Support.
Then move the second that we suspend the rules and vote on an action item this evening. We'll have a roll call vote.
Aye.
Suzanne?
Aye.
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
And then I move that we accept this proposal to purchase 500 Chromebooks for a total fee of $136,000. That vendor would be ComDoc.
Support.
We moved to second that we approve the spending of $136,000 for 500 Chromebooks. Roll call vote. Greg?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Suzanne?
Aye.
Becky?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Can we do that tonight?
I'm gonna tell them right
Thanks.
That's what he texted him.
All right?
Thank you, Devin.
He's moving, his fingers are flying on the phone as we speak. All right, so that we'll move on to the administration agenda. It's now time for public comment. If anyone, please step forward.
Hello, good evening. May I remove my mask?
Yes, you
Okay.
may.
Oh, it's hard to breathe in this.
I'll say.
Hi, my name is Lori Chenevy. Good evening, board members and Mr. Hilderly. Yesterday, I sent an email regarding the resignation of Mr. Zajac. Since we are fortunate to be able to attend the special board meeting tonight, I thought I'd share my thoughts publicly. Mr. Zajac is a wonderful AD. When I was in high school, I had no idea who my athletic director was. I didn't notice if he or she were at my games. I don't recall seeing him or her in the hall. Today, that is very different. Kids at Tecumseh know who Mr. Zajac is. They see him in the halls. They go in and talk to him. Little side note, the kids tell me they take his candy. They see him at their competitions. I'm sure he isn't able to go to every meet or competition. However, I'm sure he gets to most. I think that's pretty wonderful and makes him a very special in the kids' eyes. He cares for kids, and he's done so much for our community and its youth. When my daughter Riley, a class of 2020 grad, was in elementary school, Tecumseh didn't offer hoopsters or youth summer camps. We had to go to Adrian, Celine, or Lenawee Christian to find those opportunities for her. My son Gavin, a class of 2023 student, has had different opportunities because of John. When John came to Tecumseh, our high school started offering many different youth summer camps and hoopsters for kids to participate here in our community. The money raised stayed here in our community, and recently I heard $15,000 from the athletic department was donated to help with the middle school weight room. I'm not the only one that feels this way about Mr. Zajac. In my email, I attached many positive comments made on one Facebook post by people in our community. I hope you find time to look at them. There are many others like the ones I attached. Lately, my husband and I have been approached by many people who are thankful that we are speaking up because they are not comfortable or they feel they can't due to their positions in the community. I hope you have a restful spring break, and I ask you to take a little time to reflect and think about keeping John in Tecumseh. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Sam Schmidt. I have 3 kids that have been either in the Tecumseh schools or graduated. I graduated from Tecumseh schools. I have a business in town. And I just wanted to say something about Kevin Johnson's resignation. Back in October, I found out that Mill Abbott put in his resignation at a local restaurant. I think it was well known at the time. After I found out, I watched 2 board meetings go by with no mention of his absence or his resignation. It made me think back to when board member McNamara resigned, and I heard Kevin Johnson say we have 30 days to replace him. So I know he knew that. And then I got to watch in December as 12 community members offered to take Milt's spot. Kevin Johnson resign and take that spot away from 12 people that could have had it. And on top of that, he got a majority vote out of the board members. I was one of the 12, approximately 12 people that offered to take that spot. I did get an invitation to the board meeting about 3 hours before it. And at that time, I knew Lynn Davis had put her name in and that she had just ran unsuccessfully and missed the spot. And I replied to the board that I wouldn't feel right if I got the spot and she did not. I don't feel right that Kevin Johnson got that spot at all. I think the fact that he's been there and some of the things that have been done since January 1st is a disgrace to this educational leadership. And I thank the people and Milt that brought this to light because it should have been taken care of a long time ago. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? All right. Given that, we'll move on to the board member comments and discussion.
I'm up. Mr. Schmidt, just so we're clear, if you had been appointed then, you would now also be null and void. That was kind of the whole point of the thing tonight was no one knew that was the situation. And whoever had been appointed would no longer be seated. And just so everyone's aware, Milt has been saying he's going to resign since he was seated. And it was not uncommon for him to not be here. Not a knock against Milt. It's just the fact of the matter.
Anyone else?
I think we need to say thank you to Kevin. 'Cause I
Yeah,
thought
he did a
agree.
great job.
Kevin did a wonderful job. He put a lot of time and effort into it.
There's
Whether
been-
you agree with, some of the things that Kevin has done, I know some of us do, some of us don't. Kevin did a wonderful job as our president and put a lot of time and effort into it.
Yep, and he was honest and ethical and always kept his cool, even if people were nasty to him, which I never could do, but we all know that.
There's
As
been a lot.
I read in my statement, I thanked him for his service to the district on behalf of the board. And I will say that Kevin accepted the news with
Yeah,
grace
he's very gracious.
and wished the board the best.
There's been a great deal of misinformation about Mr. Johnson and what has and has not happened. And there's been those that have promoted that information. And he has graciously handled this, and that's that.
I wasn't going to say anything tonight, but I think there needs to be a further investigation into this. And,
Of course you do.
I do, Suzanne, because I called Kevin back in October after someone told me that Milt told them that he resigned.
And we had an investigation then, Tim.
We did,
and
yeah.
they
We
said,
took care of this.
Yeah, and we did have an investigation, and we got a correspondence from our attorney that was not shared with the rest of the board. It was just shared.
It's okay
it
to thank
absolutely
Kevin for his.
was.
Can't you
Okay.
just leave it at that for tonight? We'll have a conversation later.
It absolutely
just
was shared with the board.
Thank him for all the great stuff he did
Okay,
and let it be.
I disagree.
I don't think anyone had any doubt.
That's no shocker. Let's just move on. It's what's best for kids.
It's what's best for the community, Suzanne, too.
No,
kids.
we're here for the kids.
This is the kids, Tim.
The
That's why
kids
it's a
are
school
part of
board.
the community, so
We all need to get back to doing what's best for the kids.
Yeah.
Because it's not always going to be what's best for the community. It's not always going to be what's best for the teachers, the staff, or anybody else.
And it's
Our
certainly
number
not
one
padding attorneys'
responsibility is the
pockets.
kids. And that's what we need to get
And
back
we should
to.
be an example to those kids.
Yes, we should.
You should. That is true.
Right.
Okay, let's
So
move
I
on.
want to just, I have just a couple of things I want to say. I mean, last summer when I decided to run for this board, I never dreamed I'd be sitting here, right? That was not, certainly not what I aspired to be. But I'm here, and I accept this position, and I commit to the community that I'll do what I need to do. The only thing I'm going to ask is that we treat each other with respect, right? I mean, we all have different opinions. Even, I know it's hard to believe, my wife and I have different opinions, right? But we treat each other with respect. So it's okay to disagree. We're never going to agree, but let's really try to do that, right? And I have lots of thoughts and lots of ideas, and hopefully we'll be able to get together for a planning meeting here. It's on the schedule. We'll do that. But that's all I want to say. Let's all just,
Be positive.
I mean,
Let's be
it was
positive.
okay. It's okay to say your feelings. I'm not saying that. I just certainly don't want to censor that. That's not my intent. My intent is that we actively listen, and then we respond, and then when we're responding, everybody actively listens to you. That's all I ask. This has been very stressful week, I think, for every one of us, especially this man
Try
here.
2 years.
Okay, well, I understand, but that's all my comment. Again, I'm committed to making this a school of excellence, and I welcome the opportunity to work with all of you and the community. Okay. Any other comment? Then I'll accept the motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Support.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Here's your pen, my dear.
Are you sure you like it?
No, I have a whole bunch of them just like that.